Hola, welcome. This is Dino Delano. All right. Today we are going to work on an important issue. It is an issue that probably affects 70, 80% of the world's population. And I should say cultured population that are in cities, that have gone through schools. In other words, they're not living back in the Amazon jungle somewhere. They weren't that fortunate in that sense. Have you become a victim of your beliefs? Now, what do I mean by becoming a victim of belief? We become a victim of a belief structure or the beliefs that we have when we don't realize that we have them, or we don't realize how they are affecting our lives, how they are causing us to act and express and be and feel in certain ways. Now, if you've watched any of my other many videos, you know that I'm not just going to give you the information. I'm also at the end of this video going to cover in depth what you can do to make a positive change. When a belief takes over your mind. How does a belief take over your mind? Really quite simple. When we were born, from that point till about age 6, 7, somewhere in there, we did not have a critical mind. In other words, you didn't have the kind of consciousness that could say, I don't believe this. I think this is nonsense. No way, Jose, and so on, right? You didn't have that process. You were what I call in the Santa Claus part of your existence. In other words, everything that you were told, particularly by parents, by religions, by the people that maybe your parents respected, also in the way that they acted around you, you just simply took it in. And for the most part, you don't remember. Well, how did you learn to walk or talk? You don't remember that. I don't remember that. But at some point, you probably, grabbed onto the coffee table or the chair in the house and you pulled yourself up, because what you were doing in your imagination at that time, by watching the people around you, you were imagining walking. By imagining that kind of, monkey see, monkey do kind of thing, you were putting together the neurological structures, because that's what imagination does, by the way, puts together the neurological structures to be able to start to make those movements. Walking is a very complex process, as is talking. Now, you don't even think about that now. You just do it. You get up and walk, you open your mouth and you talk, and so forth. So, in other words, in that sense, it has become what many people call unconscious, part of the subconscious mind. Let's call it something different. I call it part of the library. In other words, it is where you have stored all this information in the library, but there is so much of it that you don't even remember how it got there or when you put it there. All right? Give you kind of a sense of what I'm talking about. Self-pity is a human being's worst disease. Let me say it again. Self-pity is a human being's worst disease. And the larger part of the human potential, or a human population, I should say, has this particular function as a part of who they are as a person. Not everyone, certainly. Not by any degree of the imagination. So please don't let me put something on you that is not a part of who you are. Right? So be critical in your thinking. Be questioning in your thinking. Just don't take everything in that sense. But how do we learn self-pity? And why am I so adamant? And why do I feel so strong about what I'm talking about right now? Very simple, because self-pity robs us of our energy. It robs us of our vitality. It robs us of those feelings of self-worth. It robs us of our willpower. That feeling that, yes, I can do this, is literally torn away when we go into a state of self-pity. And guess what? We learned it. We learned how to feel bad about ourselves. And as the gauge shows right there on the screen, when we're in that state, we are running on empty. And when we're running on empty, we are in a process of pick ourselves up, let ourselves down. One day you feel good, the next day you feel bad. You feel good for a week, and then all of a sudden you feel bad for a week, and so on. You get this idea, wow, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to put together. I am going to learn oceanography, or I'm going to learn how to run videos, or I'm going to learn how to be an artist, or I'm going to learn to be a CPA. And wow, your enthusiasm is up, and all of a sudden, it's down. All of a sudden, what you thought you could do, you can no longer. Or maybe you bought a guitar or a piano or whatever. Wow, you're going to learn that. I mean, you really are excited. 2 weeks later, 1 month later, whatever it is, wow, and all of a sudden it turned into work, didn't it? Or that new diet. How many new diets have we been on, right? How many times are we going to quit smoking, or whatever the case may be? Whatever that great thing is that you're going to do for yourself, and you're up and you're what? Down. Because your emotions have gone up, and your emotions have also gone down. Well, get this. When you have a functional core belief, by the way, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, let's think of it in this way, as a cob of corn. If you could remove all the kernels, imagine that those kernels represent beliefs that are attached to the core, that are attached to that major core belief, because that's what we're working on today. We're working on a core belief, because that belief of self-pity holds many of your other attitudes and feelings about who you are as a human being together. And those beliefs also emote your feelings. They power your feelings into what you do or don't do or cannot do or feel you cannot do as a human being. Again, that thing of I start it and I don't finish. I start it and I can't seem to get it together, and so on. So in other words, you let yourself down. What is at the heart of it? The heart of it actually is very simple, because one of the things that we learned is that we were, right, the ugly duckling. What am I saying? Very simple. If you or I believe that we were born wrong, that there was something wrong with us, that we were born in original sin, that we were born and did something wrong, in other words, the human family did something wrong in the gates of heaven, I shouldn't say heaven, but right, in the Garden of Eden, if we did something wrong, that now we need what? Redemption. We need baptism. We need to get down on our knees and pray for forgiveness. We need some deity to die for our sins, and all of this kind of, what does that tell us about us personally as a human being? That says something wrong with me. I was born wrong. I should feel sorry for myself. Maybe if I feel sorry for myself, maybe if I pray long enough, maybe if I get down on my knees and do this long enough and fervent enough, I will be forgiven. Guess what? You'll never be forgiven. Because that is a belief. And the beauty of that belief is that the people who created it also are the people who give you the problem to solve it. Let's go back a little bit further. Let's go back to the little kid that was learning to walk. Does that little kid, when they are learning to walk, maybe you have children, or maybe you've watched children learn to walk in the process, when they fall down and they hurt themselves, they cry and they get upset, do they need any redemption for their mistake? Do they feel sorry for themselves for their mistake? Oh, they may cry a little bit, but guess what? They just get up and do it again. The idea that they have done something wrong is not yet a part of their ingrained emotional consciousness. Let me say that again. It is not yet a part of their ingrained emotional consciousness, because your beliefs, the things that we learned during that state and time, and I want to mention it again, we did not have a critical mind during those first 6 or 7 years that could say, this is nonsense. We simply took it all in. Are you thinking now? I hope so. Are you maybe possibly getting how terrible a belief that is, to believe that you were born wrong and now you have to suffer in some way, shape, fashion, or form in order to get over it? Or someone else has to suffer for you? Does that not steal your energy? Does that not take away your vitality? Does that not make you feel like you are a valuable, worthwhile human being? You see, let me put something to you this way, is that the idea, the feeling of gratitude, the idea, the feeling of pleasure, is what makes us feel that life is worth living. In other words, when you eat a wonderful meal, when you have great sex, when you have great friendship and conversation, when you do a painting or you write a poem or you do a dance, that sense of pleasure makes us feel and think that life is good. But you see, self-pity is just the opposite of that. It is the other side of that. Because we'll never be okay with self-pity. We'll never be completely forgiven. We'll always have to go back to the confessional in order to make this happen. I find that an incredibly vulgar, awful, terrible belief. And I'm surprised that the psychological community has never really brought that out, has never really said, take a look at this. Getting free. Freedom is possible. Freedom has always been possible for us in any of these areas. But it was once said by, I believe, a Franciscan monk, give me a child until they're 7 or 8 years old, and I have them for life. What the Franciscan monk was saying is that I will program them so deeply and so much and so fervently with our stories and what we believe that they'll never become free of it. Not true. You have the capacity through the intellect, through your mind, to begin to free yourselves of these kinds of debilitating beliefs. And what we're doing right now, right here today, is the beginning of it. The beginning of it is to recognize when we are in a prison, self-made in that sense. Self-made in the sense that we became a victim of what our parents believed. Now, in all honesty, your parents probably did not put that belief into you maliciously. Even the priests didn't maybe put it into you maliciously. They were ignorant, and sometimes they're very stupid. But nevertheless, whether it was through ignorance, whether it was through stupidity, or whether it was through maliciousness, nevertheless, for many of us, it became a part of how we live in life. And within that prison, one of the major things that people try to do is to hide those feelings of worthlessness. We hide it with alcoholism. We hide it with drug abuse. We hide it with overeating. We hide it in all. Depression is another way that we hide it. And then some people get a lot of pharmaceuticals to come out of the depression, never really discovering what is causing the depression, which is another gross misuse by the medical profession. So by recognizing the prison that we have been put in, that we have gotten ourselves into, is one of the first steps to getting out of it. Through your cognitive understanding, through your intellectual understanding, by the recognition and the acceptance that this is a dysfunctional belief, it will help you to begin to make a shift to get out of the prison. Also understand, though, when we first see freedom, it's a bit scary. It's like an animal, that's been confined for a long period of time, and all of a sudden the doors to the cage are open. Maybe when they let that lion back out into the jungle in Africa, or we let that hawk that had a bad wing and now it's been rehabilitated, and so on. Because we're afraid that, if I let go of this belief that there's something maybe wrong with me, that I was born wrong, that I need forgiveness, that I need to pray for redemption, maybe if I give all of that up, I'll become a bad person. Maybe I'll do something wrong. Maybe I'll hurt somebody. And all of that. Those are all the kernels on that cob, you see. Because the core belief doesn't sit by itself. It creates all other kinds of feelings and many other beliefs that are attached to that core. But once you understand that that core is dysfunctional, it begins to dismantle it. But there's many other things that you can do. But you have a choice. Let's understand that. I'm not telling you what you should or should not do. I am simply giving you the information, the understanding of what this particular belief causes us to do in our personal life. You're going down the road. You have the choice to go to Alabama or up into Montana. You're sitting down for a meal. You have a choice to order eggs and bacon or a hamburger sandwich. You are going out with some lady who you feel is a wonderful lady, or a man who you feel is a wonderful man. You have a choice to be with them, or, hey, I like this guy over here. You know what I'm talking about. There is always a choice. Choice is our personal power. By the choices that we make, we create our lives. Now, please don't misunderstand what I'm going to say now. And I'm talking about what has happened in Japan with the nuclear reactors. I have a great sense of sadness what is happening to those poor people over there. But let me say it this way. They made the choice, their government, whomever, made the choice to put nuclear energy into force. Nuclear energy is dangerous. It has always been dangerous. Not only is it dangerous, but also the stuff that it creates, because we don't know what to do with it, where to store it. And I'm not going to go into that. What I'm saying is, by making that choice, they opened themselves up to that kind of potential problem, as does the alcoholic in that sense, who ends up with cirrhosis of the liver or other kinds of problems. By the choices that we make, we create the life experiences that we have. So, the choice, again, as I want to say, is yours. But here are the techniques, or some of the techniques, that you can use to begin to turn this around at a deep emotional level. Intellect is a very wonderful tool. Cognition is a wonderful tool. But oftentimes the emotions are so ingrained that you're still triggered automatically, even though you have maybe shifted at an objective level. You see, I'm not going to tell you that I have all the methods, techniques, and so on that can totally change this for you. I don't. I have a lot, and I do have a wonderful book that will give you a tremendous amount of information. But you know what? There's a lot of other people out there also doing some great work. So I don't have it all, but I do have a lot, all right? But let's start off with hypnosis. A lot of people don't like hypnosis. In fact, they're afraid of hypnosis. I don't want to be hypnotized. I don't want anybody programming me, never realizing that they've been programmed since the time that they were born. They just don't remember why they feel and think and have the ideas that they do. So using hypnosis is a major way to turn that around. EFT is one of the great new technologies, emotional freedom technique. You're going to learn a lot about it right here on YouTube by watching some of the YouTube videos about that. You can go to a therapist who works with it to help you, and you can learn the process yourself. You don't have to be with the therapist for the rest of your life. Just like the person who needs to be redeemed, they're stuck with that particular religion for the rest of their life. Otherwise, they never feel like they're going to get to the promised land and so on. So by learning it, you're free to utilize it in your own way. Creative Visualization, a book that was written by Shakti Gawain that sold into multi-millions internationally. She was my student back in about 1973, 1974, when I was right at the forefront there of the human potential movement. These ideas came out of the stuff that we were sharing and teaching during those days. You see, I've shared this stuff freely with humanity from the beginning. Yes, often I've made my living from it and made very good money from it. But that's not the point. The point is that this information is open to you. Body work is another great one. Yoga, Tai Chi, Rolfing. Why does body work help you move through these emotional constrictions? Why does body work help you, for instance, get over things like arthritis? Because the kinds of beliefs, or this core belief that we're focusing on today, makes us rigid. Yoga makes us flexible. Tai Chi gives us flexibility, moves more energy through the system. Through that flexibility, it helps us to release and let go of the emotions. We become emotionally free to go in the directions and create the life that we choose personally as a human being. Now, by the way, please, when this video is over, if you've liked it, leave a comment. If you don't like it, leave a comment. But seriously, pass it on to other people. Tell them to watch it if you feel it's been of value. Also, you can go to my website, which is coolzenhealing.com. Take a look at the book, Discover the Magic in You. It is chock full of information and literal methods that I will teach you step by step by step by step in how to create the life that you want, how to eliminate stress, how to self-heal, and how to change the kinds of dysfunctional beliefs that we have talked about today. All right, thanks for being with me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Dino Delano.